I generally think that the everyday something different is what keeps me smiling, exciting, honest, on my toes. I never take it for granted. I always believe that I'm only as good as the last dish you cook, right? So it keeps me on check because I really it doesn't matter if it's a demo for 30 people, I'm still cooking for them. It better be bloody good, right?
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Everyone has a different food story. Some grow up with little or no real connection through food, but discover its allure in later years. Others grow up tugging on the apron of their grandmother, getting dusted in flour and begging to get their hands dirty in the kitchen. Chef Luca Ciano was born into a family with an unending passion for food, and it's translated into an incredible career down under. Luca, how are you?
Good, everybody. I'm doing fantastic. What about you guys?
It's good to have you on the show, mate. It's been a while since I've seen you, and you've done so much. What's the last year been like for you? It seems like you're sort of everywhere.
Which technically I think it's a good thing, right? Being extremely busy, but I'm losing my head, to be honest with you. I think I haven't finished counting, but we're shy of 50 flights this year between Australia and overseas. So I'm definitely going mental, claiming to be a chef, and all I'm doing, I'm wasting days at the airport on missing flight, cancelled flight, and bloody delayed flights and all that. But no, listen, life is good. It's just extremely busy, just the way I like it. So at least I got something very good to whinge about, because I gotta find something to whinge about, right? So at least it keeps me grounded, keeps it real. I still able to really, pinch myself every day and consider myself extremely lucky to have been given this amazing opportunity in this amazing country that I've been calling home for the last 20 plus years. And I still really, really enjoy what I do, and I think the mix of what I do between, either filming rather than talking, trying to introduce my product range to a new retailer, or working as a chef ambassador for one of my, sponsors or whatnot. I don't know. I think that's probably the key that keeps me happy, as in every day is different, right? I just couldn't be able to function anymore just every day in a kitchen like I used to. Just I will see that without, any offense to any good colleague of mine, I will feel like, restricted. It would be almost boring. I mean, let me do that for a week or two, and then I'll be going like, yeah, no, I gotta do more than this. I gotta go out and about. I gotta do stuff. I gotta talk to people. I gotta, and that's what, I'm really, really enjoying.
Well, 50 flights in a year is, not uncommon previous to COVID, but over the last couple of years, no one has been flying. What's it been like going on those adventures, and, what have you experienced in the year on all of your travels?
Look, there's two sides to this answer, I guess. I've always traveled a lot, as you know. Prior to COVID, I was still really on fire with my travels and my work and whatnot. COVID brought it all to a standstill. I was struggling because psychologically, I generally realized that, oh my God, you take away my work and I'm done. I realized I was very addicted to my job in the best possible way, obviously. But the pandemic has gone for so long that I've been able to sort of reset and go to, a happy place, like with my family, enjoying time off and having weekends off all of a sudden, which I'm like, oh, gee, this is not too bad after all. So when I actually restarted, I didn't tell this to anybody, actually. I struggled. I struggled a lot. I always miss my family when I travel. But when I restarted, I'm like, how long do you want to keep doing this for? Because I've been doing this for, over a decade now that I do, I'm the kind of chef / whatever you want to call me, doing this type of lifestyle, which is extremely exciting if you don't do it. And obviously, I only post on social media what I know friends and family want to see, which is me having a good time. But, there's so much time wasted in airports on your own, and flight canceled, delayed. I mean, the travel in these days, let's be honest, I don't know how many flights you'll be on this year, but it's just ridiculous. You board the plane whenever they're ready, if they're ready, and if they're not, they just sorry mate, come back tomorrow, flight is not going ahead. It's been very frustrating to coordinate all the job related gigs around the travel issues. But at the same time, like I was saying earlier, it is still very exciting. I mean, you get paid to travel and go to do amazing gigs in front of amazing either customers or a bunch of people, either being the filming or presenting a new product or whatever that is. So, like I said, it's been hard to get back into the rhythm of it. But now that I'm back, it just feels normal. But like I was telling you earlier before the interview on a 101, like I am tired. I am generally physically tired. I am mentally tired. And I was talking to my manager not literally a couple of weeks ago about this, because it's not like me to start claiming that I'm tired. But I say, my next year, I just want to really start saying no to things, and working a calendar around me, myself, and my family instead of always giving priority to work, right? Because we're chefs. Even though I've got out of the kitchen a while ago, the mentality is the same. Is the answer is always yes, chef, yes, chef. It's and it's my business, right? So every time I say no, it's not money not going to my pocket. So, but obviously, we're in a good space in these days, and I think we worked really, really hard over the last 30 plus years to be where we at. That yeah, I think I deserve to start saying no to people and just enjoying a bit more of my time. And I don't even know what that means, my time, right? I don't know if I want to go to the beach and lay flat or I want to go on a holiday. I don't know, but I think I deserve to have a bit more time for myself and especially for my family, especially for my beautiful, 9 years old daughter. So that's it. Let's see what happens next year.
Well, that refocus and realignment to put more energy into your family, that has been part of your history. And take us back to when you were young and the role that food played when you were a kid.
Well, family to me literally is everything, right? I've had this very unique lifestyle. I left Italy when I was 17, about to get to turn 18. Moved to the UK for 3 months, believing I was going to go and have an experience and learn English. Of course, I ended up renting a flat with two Italian guys, so English was terribly bad after that 3 months. Went back home and then decided again to take off again and travel across the globe. But leading up to that, yeah, mom is just an exceptional cook, and so was her mom. And I do have my latest cookbook that talks literally about all my journey. I've entitled it. The title is Luca's Culinary Journey, and basically the journey is generally about even me trying to reminisce and trying to remember. Sometimes I even ask. I mean, I put that down in words in the cookbook, and I've had interviews about it. But I'm really trying to really work out what has led me to this very unique lifestyle, and especially becoming a chef. So I think I definitely have the cliche of the good Italian mom that cooks amazing food, happy days, right? But that cliche is quickly broken down because I got a ton of friends of mine, and they know who they are, which their moms. They're freaking terrible in the kitchen. Like I remember as a kid going to their place for dinner, and I'm like, "Holy shit, this is terrible!" Excuse my language. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear or not.
You can swear. That's fine.
All right, all right. Yeah, I was like, this is crap. Like honestly, so you quickly realize, even as a young kid, I'm like, oh Jesus, mom's actually knows what's up in the kitchen. She's doing it right. And then mom introduced me as well to seasonality. I do talk about moments where I'm like, Mom, I want strawberry, and mom will say, well, mate, you gotta wait. They're not in season yet. I remember in spring, mom coming home with with a ton of asparagus, and it was bloody asparagus for like 2 weeks on. And then autumn came and chestnuts were up, and I got vivid memory. And now I'm replicating all of that within my own household. Not even as a chef in a young age, because I guess when we get catapulted from being young and go to school, culinary school, which I've done in Italy, and then going into cooking, at a young kid, all you're doing is really obviously being told, do this, do that, peel this, chop that, and then you're getting into service, you're under pressure, and they really teach you is kind of keep up with all the shit that goes around in the kitchen. But back then, nobody, if something changed seasonally, it's because the head chef was changing the menu, and all of a sudden asparagus were in spring. But nobody's really was dedicated that amount of time. And look, if you look at my background, I've done from Michelin star restaurant in Italy to five-star hotel internationally and whatnot. I've never really seen that focus that I have in these days about either the quality of the produce or the seasonality or the story behind it and what's so special about it and da 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 da. Only thanks because I actually removed myself from the kitchen a long while ago, and all I do in these days is obviously collaborating with producer, with growers. I have my own range, and that's how we go about outsourcing the best produce possible. but so the family has been an amazing kickstart into me becoming a chef, and I kid you not, I still kind of believe that this is the real story in my little brain. I remember cooking something, and would have been as stupid as a 10 or 12 years old kid cooking his first time a pasta with fresh tomato, basil, and parmesan, which still is my all-time favorite pasta dish, right? And I remember my mom saying, "Gee, that's very nice." And I don't know if she was either, lying to put a smile on my face or not. And then she said to me, "Look, if you like this, there's actually a school, and they teach you how to cook." And again, I think I must have been 10, 12. And in my head, I'm like, "A school? Like instead of studying, you're actually cooking?" I said, "That sounds bloody wonderful. As long as I don't have to study, right?" And that was my little stupid process in my head. And then as soon as I got towards the age of 14, and that's where you finish your, let's say, college, and you move into culinary school. Yeah, I mean, I've obviously learned more about the culinary school, and then I got pretty much backfire because you basically, culinary school in Italy is exactly like any other school in Italy, as in you study everything from math to geography, whatever, and on top of it, you got to cook. Like they teach you, obviously, like a TAFE over here. So yeah, it was terrible because from I thought I scored like great because I never really liked study. Like I was okay as a student. I was always bored very easily. I like practical thing. And still today, right? Put me in the kitchen 16 hours. It's a way better than spending 8 hours writing recipe on a laptop. Like you know what I mean? Like I just hate standing still. And I remember going to school. I've actually had second thoughts because I thought I was going to quit because the school, it was still, I think in these days in Italy, is the only school that even at that young age you're doing, I think it's 40 hours a week, whether the other schools are like not even 30. Because basically when the normal school time is over, basically it's almost like you're staying back to do your culinary whatever, either in the classroom or in the kitchen. And I was at that young age, I remember into my good old heavy metal bands, wanting to go to concert and skateboarding. I was the odd bunch, right? Because I had long hairs, and my teacher told me you're never going to become shit because I just did not fit the bill, right? Especially in those days. I don't want to sound too old. I'm 44, by the way, for anyone out there that doesn't know me. But back in those days, it was really old school, especially in my country, France, Italy, Spain, like really, really old school in the kitchen. Basically, you gotta have freaking short hair, you gotta look sharp and shaved, and otherwise you're not going anywhere. So I was obviously, due to my music choices and whatnot, I had my tight skin, my tight jeans, and I had my leather jacket. I had all, from Metallica to Slayer, you call it. I had it plastered on my backpack and whatnot. So obviously, yeah, I kind of just really didn't fit the chef thing. But check this out, and this is what sometimes I tell myself, or I believe that is been helping my career. You know what? I actually believe that I was gonna be freaking good at it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was something in my little brain. I'm like, I'm gonna freaking smash this. Like, I'm good. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be one of the best. And I don't know. I don't even know because it's funny because I'm not that kind of person. But I believe from a very young age that yeah, gee, I was going to take it seriously. So school was very, very tough because I was finishing school at 3, 4 p.m., whatever, coming back home. And, I'm from Milan, Italy. And I don't need to tell you the weather in winter. It's like, it's just pretty bloody miserable. And talking about my own hobby, which was, I was playing in a band with friends. I was playing the bass guitar and I was skateboarding. I was doing all of that stuff. And, by the time I came home, it was dark. Like people were just home. And I just felt that feeling of, yeah, like this is not working out. And my mom sort of gave me a very big push in sort of don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. And I come from a single parent. Dad unfortunately passed away when I was a young kid. I was 3 years old. My brother was 4, and I generally do have the stereotype of the best mom on the planet, like we all claim. But she generally was. She busted her chops to make sure that we had everything and above and beyond. She definitely set the bar for my brother and I in terms of what hard working was all about. Working 6 days a week, 12, 14 hours days. So we kind of grew up quickly because obviously we've lost our dad. We had a ton of help from friends and family. So I don't really feel that my childhood was affected. I mean, of course, I lost my dad, so that's pretty shit. But I don't feel. I mean, there's people that have worse childhood than mine with both parents, right? For a lot of other reasons, which that's for another interview. But yeah, mom's been such a great example of. I mean, Jesus, since the day I remember interacting with my own mother, all I've seen her was just working and working and provide and working and provide, and still we had holidays, and still we had presents under the tree, and still we were whinging about one this or one that, and we got it, and and the family around it. When I claim about having the most beautiful family overall, like I talk about in the cookbook, my mom's sister. So my uncle, my auntie, family, awesome people, and again into food. We shared a house up in the mountains in Val d'Aosta, in north of Italy. So winter and summer was in holiday breaks, was always going to the mountains. Then my grandparents from mom's side, even though they were as low income, whatever you want to call them, extremely hardworking people. Period. They still managed back in the days to have a small holiday house on Lake Como, which in these days is famous because of good old George Clooney. But for us from Milan, it's about a 45-minute drive. So normally back in the days, check this out, going to the lake was for poor people, and we were poor because rich people go to the seaside. But from Milan to Lake Como is like 45 minutes drive. So they had this little cute apartment in the most awesome area, and I mean, I'm telling you, I've lost that. Mom's was working, her butt out, and still in summer we were split between spending time with grandma and granddad on Lake Como, and me and my brother fishing from the age of 4 or 5 on the beach, bringing home alborelle, which is like a little bit bigger than a whitebait, and our nonna, she would just gut the fish and fry it for us. We had a garden next door which didn't belong to us, but my brother and I, extremely skillful, we used to go and steal zucchini flowers and eggplant and whatnot and bring it back to nonna, and nonna will fry the zucchini flower as a snack. And then there was a big, massive tree of figs hanging all from one property next to ours. And as the figs were mature and too heavy, were just falling from the tree. So me and my brother would just go and collect as many as we could, bring it to nonna, and nonna's like, the hell am I gonna do with these? So she will peel them off, wash them off because literally they were falling to the ground, and then we'll have that with a bit of prosciutto, whatever it is, right? So that was the lake memories that honestly I talk about in the book, and I translate the stories into recipe because these are all there's nothing too chefy about those recipes. It's all about really my childhood and the lovely memories, and then translating that to the mountains. I'm not sure how many people listening here they know the mountains beside going skiing. I mean, if you go in summer, it's the most amazing place to just go and go hunting for foraging for wild berries or the famous porcini mushrooms. We'll go on trail. My uncle used to be a big fan of get up early, let's get ready, let's put a couple of paninis in their backpack, and you kids are coming with us. So I remember me and my brother always whinging because mom wasn't there, so we were sort of managed by my uncle and auntie, which are the most amazing human beings as well. But against their will, we had to go on these freaking long walks and whatnot. But guess what, mate? We were coming home with a ton of porcini mushroom, wild strawberries, blueberries, and I mean, so you know what I mean? Like if I break it down like that, I look back, I'm like, shit, I've had the best freaking childhood ever. I mean, how many people have that? But then on the other, I'm like, shit, I've lost my dad. Like, it's just me and my brother, and you can tell we were affected by it, especially at a very young age. And then you grow up as a teenager, but then you don't know any different. So I think as we grow out of it, it was sadly so normal. And it was so normal to have just being mom and dad and whatnot, and tapping into. I'm sorry, I'm going on for hours, but tapping into what the family was about in terms of the contribution to food. Like it doesn't matter what we were doing. I've been very blessed, either being dropped off at my uncle and aunties or my grandparents. Life generally revolved around food and family and company and supporting each other and loving each other. So it's what I'm trying really, really hard to achieve here, with my family, trying to really provide the best and be the best dad, husband, or friends that I can be to anyone,
You've worked in amazing restaurants in London and in Milan, where you grew up. What's been the real integral sort of venues and people that you worked with as you built your career?
Wow. There's obviously many places, but to break it down, that's the way I always look into it. Looking back, in my younger days, I've actually worked in an extremely big establishment in the UK, in London, and the good old figure of the executive chef in any hotel, a big fella in charge of 70, 80, 100 chefs is something that, oh my God, I was looking it up to this guy like there's no tomorrow. He was the man, right? And I was only 18. So I think from a management point of view, from learning about how to manage people, manage your food cost, understanding just how business works, probably there's nothing better than those experiences in very big establishment. There was time to actually be schooled and trained. There were programs. That's the beauty about big hotels. They obviously do invest a fair amount of money from HR trickling down to the staff in taking advantage of a lot of opportunities that quite often in smaller restaurant, fine dining restaurant, you generally just require to work your ass off and deliver. Period. So when I look back, I think most of my, let's say, management side, businessman side that I've developed over the years, probably the big hotels has definitely put the biggest imprint into this. And don't get me wrong, we were cooking amazing food and we had amazing produce and whatnot. But my memory was really about being, still young, but managing my mini team and being really schooled and groomed into a businessman. Because, as I always claim, right, as a chef, like it's just not good enough to be able to cook really well, as much as not just good enough to be able to do the numbers, because the two have to go hand in hand. Otherwise, you're gonna have amazing food with an empty restaurant, or the other way around. So it is extremely important. But then when it comes to, I suppose, gastronomy itself, food itself, probably I've been claiming this so many interviews. My experience that I had back in Milan, I actually left London I was still very young. I was only 24, 25, but I was, I was kind of a junior sous chef in a massive establishment. I was running a restaurant with a team of 7, which, for a 24 years old kid, technically is already a big deal. Managing numbers, I had my little office and my own email address from the hotel, managing with suppliers. So that was kind of cool. But I quickly realized, I'm like, Jesus, I'm 24. Like, I'm kind of acting like I've done it all, which I've done fuck all. I'm only 24. There's so much that has to be done, right? So I had this stupid idea to go back home after, I left when I was about 18. I was 24/25, and I decided to go back to Milan just for a bit of a stint because I kind of haven't been home for that long. I mean, going back home for holiday, but I haven't really worked home. And through a friend, I found this amazing 2 Michelin star restaurant, very famous in Milan, where it's really all about the quality of ingredients. So I don't recall extremely high techniques or anything like that. I don't think. I mean, I picked up some of that for sure, but the restaurant still today is extremely famous, and it's all about the quality of the product and the produce that we were given from suppliers. And what I mean by that, there's a very genuine mafia within high-end restaurants and suppliers, right? So if you obviously are able to build a bond with your supplier and you're a kick-ass establishment, suppliers will look after you and they will pick up the phone to tell you, hey, we got these coming in next week. Do you want, like, you will get sort of green light and pole position about anything amazing happening coming through their hands. So I remember it was actually crazy. Like, the structure from the hotel went out the window. It was really just a bunch of hardworking chefs jumping in the morning at about, what time we got there? About 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Kitchen will be immaculate because we will spend the rest of our night after service to clean it up. So they were the classic, 16-hour days where you get a couple of hours break in between lunch and dinner, which always ended up prepping all the sold out items from lunch. You have to make them fresh for dinner because you don't really prep for 1 or 2 or 3 days. It's a Michelin star restaurant. Every freaking day you start from zero, and whatever is left over goes for staff meal, or you just or goes in the bin, sadly. So everything had to be done fresh every day. But I remember every day the owner rocking up with if he's made when shooting pigeon, the guy will just rock up with 10 pigeons, put them on the pass and say, boys, we're going to put them on the menu tonight. And he would just walk away. And you're like, oh shit, like that's the last freaking things I needed. Now we got to, start plucking those birds and clean them and whatever. And I got already a shit stuff to do, so much work to do. But the quality of what we're getting, I think I've never seen the level of fresh meat or seafood coming through any other establishment I've ever worked for in the rest of my life. So I think the Michelin star restaurant, and specifically that one, because I don't want to generalize the area. I mean, I got friends that worked in different Michelin star restaurants that had amazing experience or not as good, right? Because as you know, there's a lot of politics and bullshit into the award games. As much as we got it over here, it's over there. It's global. It doesn't matter. But luckily for me, I was definitely in the right place just to experience what the best produce in Milan were like, either from being, truffle season when it was on, rather than anything else. So that was a great learning curve into how to appreciate the actual raw ingredient, how to cook it in the most simplistic way, to really allow the ingredients to speak for itself, how to stick to seasonality. That was just amazing. It was actually probably back then I was actually quite frustrated because I was coming from telling people what to do, and all of a sudden I was running a section and I was working 16-hour days. I mean, I was coming home. I got married really early. I was young and silly. I got married at 24. So I was telling my wife coming home, like, shit, like, what have I done? Why the hell did I come back to Italy doing this shit now? This is something you do when you're even younger than 24, 25, because, it wasn't really an abusive kitchen where you are yelled at or anything like that, like a lot of those restaurants are. I mean, everybody was working well as a team, but Jesus Christ, was a lot of work, like physically, mentally, a lot of pressure. No wonder why chefs were not freaking normal, right? I mean, it's tough. It's tough. It's not an easy environment to thrive in.
This episode of Deep in the Weeds is proudly supported by Olsen's Salt, makers of Australian sea salt since 1948.
The sea has given my family everything. My family harvests the pristine waters from the Great Australian Bight to make some of the best sea salt in the world. Hi, I'm Alex Olsen from Olsen's Sea Salt. We are the oldest family-owned salt company in Australia. We took over the leases of Pacific Salt in Baruka on the Yorke Peninsula in the early 1960s, and then when the BHP salt leases in Whyalla became available, my father took those over as well. If anyone has visited Whyalla, know it's a very, very windy place. So the three things you need to make salt are seawater, wind and sun, and you get plenty of all three of those here. Wind is a really important factor in making good sea salt because it creates a greater surface area for the sun to evaporate the water, creating brine much faster. We take the seawater from Great Australian Bight and then we store it in something called a primary pond. Then it's fed through a succession of ponds from anywhere between 8 months and 2 years until it gets so heavy in brine and the water is evaporated off, the salt starts to fall out of the water, and it's as simple as that. That's all that we do, and then we wash it in seawater and package it.
For more information, go to olsens.com.au. How did you end up in Australia?
Australia, so London, several years, heaps of Aussie in the kitchen, talking to me about, you should go and check out Australia. And back in those days, I told you earlier, I was skateboarding as a kid, and, being from Milan, going to the mountains was snowboarding in winter. The only things missing was surfing. So I met those dudes, Aussie dudes, telling me all about surfing and da-da-da, and I'm sort of dreaming about it. And just before I came to Australia, I had a stint of shy of a year in a beautiful relais chateau in Bermuda. But Bermuda didn't really work out because it was an amazing, if people don't know where Bermuda is, you know where the Triangle of Bermuda is, right? So get the map and go and check out. It's just north of the Caribbean, but it's not classified as the Caribbean. But the lifestyle, the cooking and whatnot, it's very, very similar. So I got there in a relais chateau, hoping to be the next best thing. And realistically, it kind of turned out that it sucked because the seafood fished on the island by far is not enough to supply the restaurant. So that meant that most of seafood was actually flown in from the US, mainly from New York, Boston, or whatnot, coming in frozen and whatnot. And I'm like, this is wrong. Like, I'm working in Bermuda. We got, yellowfin tuna on and off, brought to the restaurant fresh from the water, and everything else is bloody frozen from the US. So I would have said that was a failed experience. Try of a year. I mean, amazing island. I'm not going to tell you that was like the closest things I've seen to paradise. But I was 21, so I didn't care about the paradise, or I just want to work and learn, and obviously that wasn't there for me. So I came back to London because my old executive chef, almost like a father figure, always told me, mate, anytime you want to come back, you got a job here. And when I did reach out, I just got a job like kind of overnight. Went back, but that didn't last because I met those Aussie dudes, and we were in 1999. So we're leading to the Olympics, Sydney 2000. So that was just an amazing opportunity. Everything came together. I kind of came back from Bermuda, not satisfied from the actual experience under the sun. Australia, that's all I knew. It was just a beautiful place. I was as ignorant as any Italian can be about Australia, which is, I think Sydney was the capital of Australia, obviously. And I thought, besides sharks and a few other dangerous animals, I generally knew bugger all, right? So Olympics were up. All my Aussie friend in London told me, mate, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You can surf and da da da. And that's it, mate. I've applied in 3 different hotel, and I still remember was the Sheraton on the Park, the Hilton, and the Four Seasons. And I eventually, after a few interviews, I got pretty quickly a job at the Sheraton on the Park, and that's it. Jumped on a plane, as you do. Came down here. They gave me a week off, and that's it. Got stuck into it, and that's what generally brought me to Australia. But it lasted. I had a 2-year contract, but I actually ran away after 1 year because it was. Gastronomically speaking, was terrible. I mean, the food, as you will know, 22 years ago is not what it is today in Australia, right? And as a 23 years old kid, I was almost like 5 years ahead of the bunch. Any European chef was way ahead because you had kids in Australia still today. They finish tape when they're 21, 22, 23. And, I've started my first working experience when I was 14. So you kind of, you can see the gap. And that wasn't nobody's fault. It's not Australia or Sydney's fault. I was in one of the busiest hotel in town since we had the Olympics in Sydney, and as you can imagine, it was all about volume, cooking big batches. And so I came down here, wishing to learn about indigenous food and this and that. And mate, we were flipping burgers and just keeping up with the numbers. I mean, it was just terrible. And and we were in a 5-star hotel, so I'm like, I've lost passion for it really, really quickly. I got my surfing. I met Georgia, my wife, which is from Sydney, obviously. And that's it. After one year of experience, I just packed my bags and left. And my plan was, my wish was after Sydney to either go to New York or Japan, just to follow my dreams and whatnot. But as my wife back then, my girlfriend, I said, hey, do you want to, I'm a good boy. So we've only been dating for 6 months. I would have never expected her to come with me. But being polite, I say, mate, I'm going to get the hell out of here in a few months. If you want to come with me, you're more than welcome. Otherwise, thank you very much. And Georgia said, yeah, I'm coming. I'm like, okay. So we actually left, moving back to Italy for a couple of weeks just to reset and then pursue either Japan or New York. And no, I ended up with a phone call from London because I always kept in touch with the team up there. And they said, hey, we got this sort of, senior position for you here waiting if you want to take it. And luckily, my wife back then, my girlfriend, went along with it. And here you go. And there you go. And I just moved back to London for a couple of more years until my wife had enough of the grey sky and the shitty weather. And she said, mate, listen, either back to Australia or this is not working out. And that's it. Then we came back to Australia, and that was it. But mainly, the sunshine and the Olympics brought me to Sydney. And then, I don't know, I think, what's obviously not to like about obviously Australia, right? Especially sunny Sydney. but I think when you're that young, you're usually looking for different things in life. Only now I see the level of benefit that I've had by spending so many years in this beautiful country and the opportunities. Because when they happen, it just happened. You live in your day to day life. You're a young kid. You're not really pondering too much about what's next. But looking back, I think I've been definitely at the. I've been a very hardworking person, definitely with skills, but I've definitely landed the right things at the right time, and I was in the right place to be able to take advantage of those. And I guess that's where it led me in my career where I'm at today.
Tell us about the move out of commercial kitchens and into the world that you have now, and that transition, and why you did it.
Look, it was at the beginning was a little bit. It just kind of happened. Slash was a bit of desperation. My last gig as let's say chef. I was the head chef at the Westin in Sydney back in. Mamma mia, I don't even remember. Was it 2005, 6, something like that? No, sorry, it would have been leading up to 2007, 8. Apologies. When that happened, I was extremely frustrated because I had a team like of 30 plus chefs, and probably 80% were people from other countries just in Australia for visas purposes, and the skill levels in the kitchen was dramatically bad. So again, because I've always been such a believer in my career, what I was doing, everything had to be top notch and perfect, and I was just having so much friction between myself and what I was doing. I just wasn't happy. It wasn't, the standards weren't what they were supposed to be. Management didn't really give a shit about my happiness as long as the numbers were there. They were happy, and yet again, I found myself just running 12, 14, 16-hour days between, just splitting up on the pass and the office. And once again, I'm like, Luca's not happy. Like, it's not why I worked my ass off for the last, so many years to come here and sit in an office. Like, I still had a lot of fire in my belly. And, I started sort of looking around, like what could have been another opportunity. And this job came in my hands, which we're looking for an Italian guy with a serious background from Michelin star to, big establishment, da 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 da. And without naming brands, it was the largest pasta producer in the world, which happens to be Italian, obviously. And what they wanted was a chef to launch a cooking school, having a bit of a sales role, as in taking the products, presenting in front of people, big customers and whatnot, and organizing all outside events, as in catering or cooking demonstration or whatnot. So I just went for the interview. It sounded extremely different. So kind of you can be a chef, but you're not generally waking up in the morning and just getting in the kitchen. It was a very, very, very surreal, extremely different type of job, and I thought it was going to last probably 3 weeks because either I was going to leave or they were going to tell me, mate, like, you just don't have what it takes to do this type of job. And little I knew, I understood marketing very well. I quickly understood what a brand is and how you get it out there. And yet again, without naming names, is the largest pasta brand in the world and in Italy. So it was almost like wearing the Italian jersey and working for them. So I was definitely attached to the name, to the brand and whatnot, right? And years in, a couple of years in, and obviously we developed, and I was starting doing cooking classes at the school that I generally drew with a chalk. It was so funny. I remember day 2 or day 3, I sit down with the managing director, and he goes, "All right, so what are you going to do with the cooking school?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, the space we got upstairs from the office." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, it's an empty shell, so do whatever you want." And I say, "Mate, I'm a freaking chef. I'm not a designer or an architect." I say, "I have no freaking idea." Kind of long story short, he gave me a tape measuring and a chalk, and it's like, oh, I don't know, just start drawing something and see what happens. So then we got a couple of sponsors helping out with appliances and whatnot, and of course they're real people. They know how to set things up. They helped me out a lot. And the cooking school was set up in Sydney, which still exists, is still operating. And I've started having a bit of a taste of what it meant teaching to people, which I found myself, as you can tell by the interview, I can talk for hours, right? So I can only talk, I can talk a lot of crap, but at the same time, I took a real good purpose to really teaching people, I was very passionate about teaching what I knew. And when I saw people kind of listening and wanting to learn. I'm like, oh shit, I think I can do this. It's quite exciting. Then, the sales role was more about going out and about and, training, big establishments. So I'll be going to a big hotel with 30, 40 chefs and presenting this new line of pasta, training them, teaching them how to do this, how to do that. And then you'll be that's where the plane headache started, right? I was on a plane across the country to present through distributors, talking to retailers and whatnot. So I'm like, oh, this is pretty freaking amazing. Like I'm still working my ass off, but it's different. Like I'm not really, banging my heads about the guys not rocking up in the morning in time, or not being able to cook properly, or the food's getting cold on the path, nobody's picking it up, and picking up fight at the F&B meeting every day, that kind of shit. It was a different headache. I mean, I was still picking up fight with the management, with the marketing team and whatnot, because they obviously don't have the understanding. Like they want a chef on board, but they didn't. They'll be going like, all right, let's do an event for 1,000 people, and I'm like, yeah, great. So that's what we're gonna need. And they're like, yeah, no, we don't have that budget. And I'm like, well, if you're gonna do 1,000 people, you need X amount of chefs. Like I can't freaking cook for 1,000 people. So there were a lot of obviously misunderstanding in some areas, because they didn't know what the hell they were talking about in my space, and most time I didn't know what the hell they were talking in their space. But the experience was extremely exciting as far as after year 2 or year 3, I became in charge not just of Australia, but also in my field for Asia as well. So back in 2010, I've started doing my first trips to Asia. And, we started with Hong Kong and Singapore, and then China, and then Vietnam, and then Taiwan and Hong Kong. And that became my regular life, which was jumping on planes on behalf of the company, go travel, train, cooking shows, trade shows, jumping on stage, cooking demonstration. And basically, 5 years as a full-timer and then 2 years as a consultant, I decided to leave that world and pretty much setting up my own consultancy business, which, that's what I'm still doing today, which basically, as I was doing all of these good things for that brand, so many different people that I've met through the journey, they kept asking me, hey, could you do this for us? Would you work with us? And, when the number of people became quite serious, I'm like, you know what? I think I got enough to just fly in solo and apply all the great knowledge that I've learned in terms of marketing, logistics, and I know so many people in the industry, media. Back then, I was actually a contributor on BBC Good Food magazine as well, so I got a bit of a spot in the limelight, and putting my dishes in magazine, and all of this stuff kind of definitely changed my way of thinking of what a chef can do with 20 years under his belt, away from the kitchen. And I generally did like the aspects of marketing and business overall. So that's what definitely got me out of the kitchen permanently, until, of course, then I've launched my business, the consultancy business. Now we do look after several Italian or non-Italian brand giants across Australia and Asia. And then a few years into that new journey, I thought, would be very cool to launch a product range with my name on it. And back then I thought it was just cool just for the sake of profile. And I thought, let's do something really extraordinary that nobody will do, because the numbers wouldn't justify it, because the quality that I use, the normal people wouldn't do. And that started 7 years ago with 4 pasta sauces, and now we're into 17 different lines, and we sell across Australia and 4 Asian countries. And the little fun things has turned into a little mini monster.
How did you create the pasta sauces? And, is there a difference between making the pasta sauces for retail as you would in a restaurant setting?
Well, no, the fun part of it, a lot of people don't fully understand, and that's the reason why I wanted to give it a crack. So the idea was to create chef quality into a jar, right? And exploiting all the years of experience I've had in that space, thanks to those big giants that I've been looking after. And do something very unique and different to put my name on it. But then when we went down to, how to make them, you can actually make them 100% natural without adding any crap whatsoever, as long as they're vegetarian. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways. We do the hot fill situation, which basically means that you're hot filling every single jar above 85 degrees. And as long as everything is vegetarian, all the correct bacteria will be out of the window, and that will buy you 2 years shelf life. Okay, so what makes us different in the sense of what has allowed me to be able really to replicate what I do in the kitchen into my manufacturing is because we do super small batches. So we do only up to 150 kilos per batch, which I know sounds like a lot, right? You're like, oh, mamma mia, that's in a jar of 500 grams, that's 300 jars of pasta sauce, which is a lot. But yeah, in manufacturing terms, is nothing. Like the big players will do anything between 3 to 5 tons a pop. So it's kind of I don't like to use the word handmade because I don't want people to think or imagine that we do them at the back of our garage or anything like that. It's handmade in the sense that a kettle where you can cook up to 150 kilos is actually not bigger than any broth pan that I used in any function room, in any function kitchen for big hotels. I mean, I've actually used a way bigger than those doing function for massive hotels and catering and whatnot. So basically, the deal is if you can you replicate exactly what I will cook at home? Yes, 100%. I mean, we do go in with extra virgin olive oil. We don't bring the temperature too high to retain, most of the organoleptic properties and qualities and flavor of the oil I've chosen for the special cook up. Onions goes in, or either being garlic. We try to cook and build in layer of flavor profile upon each other. Until then. You go in with the last, let's say, key ingredient out of most of my range being tomatoes. Needless to say, you got to buy the best quality tomato, but also you need to cook the sauce as you would do at home, right? Because a lot of what I've learned over my journey, that the big manufacturer will bring it up to 85 and start bottling. So as soon as it hits 85, you bottle it up. And then in that stage, also they call it one dump, which means that all the ingredients go into a massive pot. As soon as it reaches the right temperature, they start bottling. So you can actually have at 100% natural and let's say even good quality ingredients into the cook up, but you're not really cooking the sauce. It's just a bloody put everything in it, and when it's ready, let's put it in the jars. Whether what we do, we do allow for reduction time, and we worked out on 150 kilos. You know how long the tomatoes got to cook and reduce down. You want to lose the level of water and moisture in the tomato and trying to retain the best part of the flavor of a tomato. And then actually you being a foodie yourself and a connoisseur, you'll understand where I'm going with this as well. Fun enough, when you put things in a jar, I think everybody has always had that kind of funny understanding or perception of, oh, it's in a jar, right? Like it can't be good. The reason why is because everything 9 out of 10 of what's out there in a jar, it is full of shit. It's true. And all of us have tried it. And it is shit because they will put citric acid to counterbalance the pH level because the pH is going to be below 4.5. Otherwise, the jar will explode. And how do you do that? And the reason why it's high is because there's probably those batches are stretched with water, or the tomato you're using is very bad. So there's a lot of water in it. You need to bring it back down. And normally citric acid is used, which is a derivative of lemon. So technically it's still natural. But you get that very funny aftertaste, like there's something that doesn't belong in there. And that's what I've learned over the years, that you can manufacture exactly as you will do it. There's only a small price to pay, which is a lot of extra dollars to pay per jar. Because, if you want to make them the way we do, and I don't even claim that they taste so good because I'm the man or because I'm such a great fucking chef. It's because we do what Mother Nature technically told me what to do. Actually, not Mother Nature, my mother told me what to do in the kitchen, or any chef that told me to do it, and we stick to it. And that's why the quality is there. And the last fun fact, I'll give you an example. We got amongst the flavors, we got caramelized onions and fresh thyme, tomato sauce, right? Now, if I make this for you tonight for dinner, you come over, I'll cook exactly the same thing I do in the jar. It won't taste as good as the one in the jar. You know why, Anthony? Because it matures extremely well into a glass jar. If I leave that jar sitting there for 6 months, just picture that in your head, how well that beautiful thyme, fresh thyme, which by the way we handpicked on the day, just creates a lovely marriage with a slow caramelization of the onions and its tomato sitting through it. It just tastes freaking twice as good. Because at the real beginning we test those old jars, and I'm like, holy crap, this tastes freaking better now, 6 months in, than when we actually made it. And that's the reality. So there's actually advantages that you can even take out of cooking something and put them into a jar, right? So anyway, then the story goes very long, but yeah, I try to put in the jar something for you to go, all right, I know how to cook, but if I don't have time and I really want something special and unique to have in the pantry last minute, boom, I'm going to get Luca's stuff.
These days you also have your television show. What's that been like doing that?
The TV show, it's been fun, stressful, fun, stressful, fun, stressful. It's it's the two going along with each other. It begins with fun and excitement, and then the reality of shooting morning until night and trying to deliver, every single aspect of it, as in trying to keep it fun, engaging, interesting for viewers. It's no joke. Yeah, it's not as easy as people probably just watch. Yeah, one of my episodes, like, oh, that was fun. It's there's obviously a lot of preparation going into it in terms of which recipe and why. And I never really found the problem of the camera and performing or delivering, because as you know, I mean, I really enjoy that part of what I do in these days. But I think the part that stressed me the most, actually, it's literally right now. It's a great question, Anthony, because we're shooting in at the end of this month, season 3, which is going to air next year, and I'm still in the process of making sure that every single recipe across all the episodes, there is a bit of a sense throughout. You don't want to have too many entree, too many dessert, too many pastas. So it's a bit of something that has to flow, because I see the full picture. Viewers might watch 1 or 2 episodes, right, and that's it. But for me, as a professional, it's extremely important that there is a balance. In case I'm hoping that there are people that watch from the first to the last episode, right? So it's a very intense process. It gets all done and dusted very quickly. People think that we film, for a lifetime. It's actually all done and dusted in 1 week, which for me, it's probably the busiest week of the year, because, I really need to go to bed nice and early, get my beauty sleep, wake up extremely energetic, and give everything I've got, because, it is your TV show. They are your recipes, so you want to make sure it shines. But it's fantastic. I again, pinching myself every morning about, how lucky I feel that I get to do everything I do. I'm extremely proud that I've been given the opportunities to do it, and extremely proud that they brought us as far as season 3 for next year. So can't wait for everybody to watch what's on offer this time.
Well, you've carved out an amazing career in Australia. What do you love about what you do?
I think the versatility of everything I do, Anthony. One day, I might be with my manufacturer, making sure that the cook-up is right. The day after, you jump in on a plane, going down to Melbourne to film your TV show. Actually, look, I'll just give you my Friday. I'm off to Melbourne. I got a cook-up this Saturday for one of my cookware sponsor. Flying back to Sydney Sunday, and Monday I'm off to South Australia for a presentation for another brand, and then I'm flying back to Sydney at night, and the following day back to Canberra for Italian. It's Italian food cuisine in the world, so we're doing another big presentation and a dinner for 100 people. So I don't know. I mean, it keeps it extremely. You get excited about one gig, and then you start getting excited about the other one. Of course, there's headaches in between, right? Because while I'm on a plane, I'm like, oh my God, have I given the right ingredient list? Am I going to have all the tools when I land, and do they have all the ingredients? It comes with, again, people just see me posting the picture at the end of the event, right? There's, of course, a lot of prep in every single event. But I generally think that the everyday something different is what keeps me smiling, exciting, honest, on my toes. I never take it for granted. I always believe that I'm only as good as the last dish you cook, right? So, you really gotta, it keeps me on check, because I really gotta, it doesn't matter if it's a demo for 30 people, I'm still cooking for them. It better be bloody good, right? Doesn't matter what you do or what your resume says. So it keeps me grounded, keeps me on point all the time. And I think until it's a thin line between the fun and the headache, I'm going to keep doing this for a little longer.
Well, Luca, it's amazing to have you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear part of your story. Please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure, and I hope everybody enjoyed all my little headache story.
Thanks, Luca.
Thank you, guys.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.